Hello and welcome to Get a Job, helping you find work in Vancouver, a podcast presented by Vancouver WorkBC Centres. I would like to acknowledge that the podcast is being recorded and produced on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam nations. We honor elders past, present, and emerging. Here at Vancouver WorkBC Centres, we provide free career services to help you find work, upgrade your skills, and connect with employers who are hiring. Our podcast will keep you up to date on the latest employment trends, training opportunities, and the best tips on how to find a job. I'm Alex Bell, and I am your host. There are now over 200 licensed craft breweries in BC. The growth in this sector in BC has been one of the highest in all of Canada. Craft breweries are a unique business that offer unique career and job opportunities. Unlike regular pubs or bars, they are also manufacturers and distributors of their products. But they also offer the tasting rooms that are like a tavern or a bar. They also have found unique ways to integrate into the community where they operate, and they have also sometimes provide unique opportunities for people to make incomes from jewelry making, trivia nights, painting, yoga, comedy, live music. The activities offered through breweries are varied. So I personally operate 2 walking and running groups out of breweries every week. Now, I don't make money, but it's a great way to socialize and get some exercise. To dig deeper into the employment and career opportunities in a growing craft brewery industry, we are joined today by the owners of Brave Brewing in Port Moody, Chris Backus, and Mariner Beer in Coquitlam, Jill Desaulniers. Sorry, yeah, I've been trying to practice that. Hi, Chris. And hi, Gil. Welcome to our podcast. And to start off, what I'd really like to do is ask you a little bit about what got you guys interested in the brewery business to begin with. Who would like to start?
You can go first, Chris.
Well, we, through my professional path in life, been involved in various different types of businesses, but one of the common denominators of that was human connection and community. And so I was with a group of colleagues from our past business, which was in the technology industry. And as we exited that opportunity and moved forward, we really were looking like, how do we move forward in our lives and create business and opportunity, but also, celebrate human connection and also build community around that. And we kind of said, well, what's the common denominator? What can we move forward? And we thought, having beer, the art of making beer, enjoying it, and bringing people together was something that was very closely interconnected for us. And so we all loved beer, and so we gravitated in that direction and haven't really looked back.
Excellent. Gil, how about for yourself?
Yeah, for myself, it was a little different. I mean, since I was young, I always kind of knew I had the entrepreneurial spirit, and I had a lot of different ideas. And through different channels of life, I became a chiropractor and had that as my first business with my wife. But then I was looking for a new challenge, new opportunities. I've always had, just different ideas for businesses. And so my buddy started joking about opening up a craft brewery together. And didn't really take it seriously at first, honestly. But then when I started looking for new projects to really expand what I wanted to do, and I've had ideas of, having physical products. Actually having, back in the day, I was close to opening up a coffee shop, wine bar kind of an idea. I've had, small clothing line stuff that I've started designing in the past, and a variety of things. And so when I started looking at businesses for sale, I actually realized that a brewery has all of them in one. So there's a lot of different things that you can do and interact with. And as Chris said, I mean, the community aspect is a huge part of that. And just my background as well, just always being involved in collaborative communities, close communities from my chiropractic community, my French-Canadian background and heritage. It's just always about family and community. So that's where it brings it all together in under one roof. So that's where it's kind of been the fun project for that.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you went from Spinal Taps to beer taps in your career. Yeah. And this, as you both have said, this spirit of community seems to be a big part of breweries. Very unique to the whole craft brewery industry. They've become almost recreational and entertainment sites in a way of bringing people together. So, what do you find unique in the brewery industry, and what sort of unique things are you offering in your breweries to connect with the community?
Yeah, I mean, they've become in a type of community center, right? Because it's a gathering place, and that's where we view our tap room, and we've changed the layout, we've renovated it to really be able to host the community in so many different ways. Whether it's your hiking group that comes every Monday, we have our trivia nights, we have you mentioned jewelry making, we have sip and strum coming up. We play the ukulele. Just so many different ways that we can have people come together on top of our collaborations with the search and rescue teams, and just various group organizations that we host as well.
And how about for you, Chris?
Yeah, I hate to echo Gil's comments, but it is exactly that. It's a place where, there's a lot of microbreweries around, so people have the power of choice. But it's like, what do they identify with, and what kind of community are you building? In our case, we called it Brave Brewing, and one of the cornerstones of our value is to tell brave human stories through the art of making beer. And so, but I think one of the most important things is that every single microbrewery has an identity.
Yes.
But that identity evolves over time. And so what was our identity on day one is still, but we've sharpened that pencil, and we've had, you kind of go in the direction that the wind blows. So sometimes it's surprising as to, where the wind blows you and what you become over time, which is, I think, the magic of being part of the industry.
All right. Yeah. So there really is quite a variety of things that happen. That's what I find unique about the breweries. I can't think of another industry that combines so many aspects of community. I mean, from the craft of making the beer to the different, literally crafts sometimes at the sites, and these type of things also provide other opportunities for people to earn money. Like if you have music nights, comedy nights, people are also using that as a way of earning income too, right? So if you're somebody with a special talent or something that you think may offer something to bring people together, maybe talk to your local microbrew, to find out.
From two different sides too, because sometimes it's from external, where we have the people coming doing the crafts or doing the ukulele lesson or things like that. And then there's some breweries that will have, their trivia night will actually be one of their staff members that will lead that and judge it. So even within your own company, there's room sometimes to express some of your other talents or other interests. Whether, we have some of our musicians that are employees, but they actually put on a jazz night a couple weeks ago.
I was there.
One hosted an open mic night for us because we have a lot of musicians on our staff, so they get to do that. Or some other breweries I've heard, they have their staff lead the trivia, where we have someone come in to do that. But so there's from outside or inside of our company, there's extra opportunities.
I know, depending on the regulatory bodies in the communities that you're operating, some breweries aren't really even allowed to have kitchens. So food trucks have been a huge thing for a lot of breweries as well. So that's a whole nother industry. We might do a podcast on that. That expanded again in connection with breweries. So these, your microbrews. So there's just so many. There's just so many possibilities out there.
I mean, you can take it anywhere. That's where the collaborating with other businesses. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun for sure.
Maybe it's because you've had to be creative in your beer. You get creative in what else you do. I'm not sure, but it sounds really fun. Getting into some sort of specifics of the types of positions you hire for in your breweries, though, because there's a variety of different positions, because you, as I say, you're also manufacturers. So some things require certifications or specific training. What are the breadth and positions that you hire for in your breweries. Chris, do you want to start off with that?
Yeah, I think as you've mentioned, there's ones that require very specific skill. So the head brewer, for example, I mean, you can't go and just find an employee like that unless they have the proper training, and not just training, but the experience, and it's got to be the right fit. It's got to be the right personality. You can have someone who makes incredibly good beer, but culturally is not a fit. So that's probably your most niche-y position, I would say, in the brewery, is getting someone who can make very good beer and being part of the team.
How hard are they to find? I mean, is there a whole bunch of people out there that, when you post something like that, or is it still a fairly restricted pool of people that you can draw from?
Like, you're going to find people who have the ability to make good beer and different kinds of beer. Are they connected at a human level to the team, and are they bringing that culture with them? That's probably finding both of those qualities. If you can find someone like that, then you would hold on to them.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a large selection of pools that you can select from. There's to get the right person. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what other positions? Oh, and do they have to have certification right now to be a head brewer? Is there a degree, diploma, certificate that they have to have, or
not that they have to have? There is a certificate and diploma program at KPU.
Okay.
But it's not a requirement necessarily. So there's some brewers that will just learn on the job and work their way up through different breweries and kind of move up in their positions and stuff. That's actually how we have our brewer.
Right.
He worked his way through commercial brewing, so never technically went to school for it, but is an amazing brewer. And then you have some that will get certification. So it's the only certification or license that they would need possibly is forklift license to be able to drive the forklift around. Otherwise, there's and people have to have their serving right. But other than that, there's no license or certificate that they would need specifically.
And what other positions are there? So there's the master brewer. What else do you hire for?
You want to keep going, buddy?
Yeah, I mean I will typically break it up. There's like back end, front end, and then there's the overall stuff. So I mean, in the back end, you obviously the master brewer, the head brewer, but then you have any of the help and assistance that they would need to, whether it's packaging assistance and for deliveries and those kinds of things, just warehouse management, and then you have the front of house where you have all the people for the serving staff. If you have kitchen staff, managers, events, marketers, administrators. So, I mean, a little bit of everything, really.
And even in your production side, there's even canning lines and stuff like that, right? So, do you hire people specifically for that process, or how do you do that?
Well, you'd have the production assistant, or like between the brewers and then production assistants, they would handle that typically, and then some people will also hire an outside company to do their canning.
Okay, and just even maintaining all that equipment, is that the master brewer's job, or do you have to hire technical people to do that?
Good.
I mean, as far as the equipment goes to make the beer, that is a head brewer's job to maintain that equipment and make sure like your boilers and that they're certified and maintained properly, that the fermentation tanks are clean. Like all of that is a back of house responsibility, and certainly at our brewery that falls on the shoulders of the head brewer. Beyond that, it's interesting. I just was interviewing a potential employee last week, and we were thinking about a job name. We were hiring them for the summer, and they asked, what is the position that's coming available? And I said, everything, everywhere, all at once. I mean, if you want to really make yourself hireable at a brewery, you better have an open mind and an open heart, because a lot of these startup breweries, we don't have the budget, nor do we have the bandwidth to hire niche positions like someone who cans. You're going to can one day, and maybe you're serving the front of the house the next day. Maybe you're out in the parking lot handing out coupons for people to come down to the brewery. So if you're not flexible and you're not open-minded about what you're willing to do, then you're going to get overlooked.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is an important tip to listen to, because, as you say, you really need to be flexible in what you're willing to take on. A marketer may be doing all kinds of stuff, or as you say, front of house person may be doing a number of things, and you find that too.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's an important point to bring up, and that's where really, as he pointed out, it depends on the size of brewery you're going to. So whether your job position is going to be niched and very specific, or you need to be very broad and adaptable to whatever the circumstances arise of who needs help and what needs to get done. So most breweries, when you mentioned there's over 200, most of them are going to be smaller craft breweries. So you have to be dynamic in what you're willing to be able to step into and be flexible in what you're willing to do so that the job gets filled and it's not so much niche. So some people like to just have a consistency, rhythm, routine.
Right.
And some people, that is totally not for them. So you got to really find the right size of brewery to be able to, some of the things of like, who does this, who does that? Well, it depends on the size of brewery. So it might be the head brewer. It might be a specific packaging assistant. Sometimes it's the owner,
So somebody who's adaptable and takes initiative, that sort of thing, is somebody that's highly valued at a small brewery, right?
Absolutely.
And some people are they're made for niche positions, but that would be probably better for a big brewery where you have specialized positions. But a smaller one,
maybe even a medium-sized brewery, you can find more tighter niched roles.
Yes,
but like we were saying before too, that if you have that initiative and other, we're not one-dimensional people, so you have the other skill sets to be able to bring that to a company is very valuable, especially when you bring in, like we've been talking about, the community aspects of it and introducing other communities. Like I've mentioned our musicians, we have our crafters, we have all those different people that are our employees already. So that's other opportunities for them to make money, bring value to the company, bring value to the community, which is ultimately what it's all for.
So those people that really like variety and are looking for that new challenge are some of the qualities that you're looking for. In fact, that was kind of my next question. What are there other qualities that you really look for in the staff that you hire? And what would be those key qualities that you kind of go, yeah, I like that? So obviously adaptability, initiative. What else?
I'd say that kind of lends to, we were talking about just being open-minded and openness, because not only in terms of you might have to do different jobs and roles, but you also have to deal with a lot of different types of people, from customers and staff. And so to me, openness in thought and communication is paramount, right? Just to have open communication, being able to talk and really work through things with your teammates and everything is huge. So there's certain things that we want to look for always in terms of that.
Yeah, in the customer instruction business, when I'm teaching customer service, we call that being able to deliver good internal customer service as well as good external customer service. Because if you're relying on a team to get things together, somebody says, oh, that's not my job. It isn't necessarily going to be the type of team member you want on your staff. But people that are willing to work together and to get the job done, adaptable, jumping in, that sort of thing. Chris, is that same for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's very important. Another important piece for me, if you can illustrate that you're thinking and working like an owner with an owner mentality, that will put you ahead of the game. And I would recommend that everyone accentuate that if they're capable of doing it. Because one of the biggest barriers that we have as owners of those businesses is being able to trust that when we're not there, that the staff are delivering that level of experience that we would deliver as an owner when we are there. And I have gone through ebb and flow of team members who some can think like owners and others struggle to do that. The ones that struggle are no longer with us, and the ones that can think like owners stay with us and are rewarded for those. So if you're looking to really woo a brewery owner in an interview, be prepared to illustrate why you can think and work like an owner.
And as Gil, you said you had that entrepreneurial spirit. That would be part of that, thinking like an owner, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know for myself, thinking of when I was younger, and that's what I went into certain industries and got certain jobs because I knew I wanted to go in those directions. So I started working in restaurants when I was young because if I want to open one, I want to know how they worked internally. So I took that to the job and tried to excel and expand as that employee for those restaurants that I used to work for.
So that's good for people who do have that entrepreneurial spirit because you give them the opportunity to actually put that spirit into practice and encourage them to do so. So that's growing their own skills, something that they can then build upon. That's a great foundation.
Yeah, and because we have so many avenues that we can go down, like we've said, whether it's merchandising or events and things like that, it's such a variety of initiatives that can be brought to the table and that could actually be built on with someone who has that ingenuity to spearhead it.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be important to qualify what some of those thinking patterns are like as an owner. One would think, oh, I'm going to apply to a brewery and, I like beer, I love serving beer, I love talking to people. Other things to consider are, what are the demographic of people in the brewery right now? Is the music loud enough? Is the music according to the demographic that's there? If it's not busy enough or it's sunny on the patio, do the customers have shade? Have they been asked if they've had shade? If you're not serving beers at the front counter, maybe go and approach the customers and ask them what was their favorite beer, providing an experience that's there. If there's still being slow, is there something around the brewery that needs to be cleaned and organized? Or are there systems that you can create that make things more efficient in the brewery, like preparing food? Right. These are all things that if you can come to an interview with, you're going to impress us beyond just saying, oh, hey, I'd like to work in this cool place and serve beers.
Right. And that customer service aspect, I think breweries also kind of like sometimes a lot of coffee shops have to get that returning customer, I think breweries also creating that customer base is important. Those ones that continue to show up and so having people that can create that connection with the customer is important. As you say, going out, asking them, showing that they care about the customer. Do you need some shade? What beer did you like? And, getting to know the customer's tastes and being able to suggest different things. You find that customer connection an important part for keeping that sort of returning customer?
Think like an owner and give an experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Think like an owner, give the experience.
And one of the things that we trained our staff on is to be a guide rather than a gopher. Right? A gopher meaning go for this, go for that. You just got to go get things. You're just serving them, but rather than being a guide from their experience. So because you have the experience of what the brewery is, the flavors and different things, the stories behind the beers and stuff. And so to quickly connect with them and guide them through an exceptional experience, they're going to have a better time and they're going to connect to the brand better, which then does bring them back. But that's taking ownership on your part as the employee to be able to connect with the person, guide them through the experience that they want. That's why we go to these environments, is to have an experience.
Right. Rather than, what beer do you want? Here it is. There.
Yeah.
Next. Yeah. That actually, the customer demographics too, as you brought up, is also important because, they change and they can change within a day sometimes, but there's also, depending on the neighborhood you're setting up in, that's important. This brings me to the question around, I've really found breweries have become employers that are really open to hiring in diversity. Diversity hiring has been a big thing, from hiring people with disabilities to ethnic diversity to the hiring LGBTQ community. The breweries seem to be open to diversity hiring. And Chris, I know you have your own experience, a specific sort of example of that. How has that worked for you? Tell me a little bit about that experience and how that's worked for you.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. I'm a disc golfer recreationally, and I met someone from the deaf community playing against them in a tournament, in a disc golf tournament, and so I was unsure how to deal with that situation at first because they didn't speak, and of course I didn't know sign language, but we just kind of leaned into the opportunity, and we were able to communicate on the phone, back and forth, typing text messages, and I found it to be a really cool experience because over the time and the day we did form a connection, and a very what I call a very good human connection. And it wasn't long after that he expressed interest in wanting to work at a brewery, and sort of the rest is history. He's been there for a year and a half. He's now in a senior management role at our brewery, and it's been a really wonderful experience. He was brave to want to come and work in an environment where it is mostly people hearing in that environment. And we were brave too by, doubling down on the chance to give this person a chance. And so it's been a really wonderful experience. The danger in saying that this person was not hired because they were from that community. Right. And I want to be very clear that we do not hire people that on the grounds that they are just diverse. Right. That, in my humble opinion, is the actual opposite way you'd want to run a successful business. Having said all of that, it's our values that no human being gets left behind, that they're given the opportunity to succeed. They're given the opportunity to grow in a community. So we tend to just want to hire people that are brave, right, and that can celebrate human connection. And if that puts you in a certain diverse community, then wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, the challenge sometimes is the employer being able to look past the diversity to seeing the other qualities, which it sounded like you did by that golf tournament. You saw the qualities in this person that you saw. This could be a good fit for our business. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing where you can go, okay, that's the deafness didn't limit your thinking of hiring them. You saw that you were able to look past that and see all the other qualities that brought in. It's also impacted a little bit of your staff as well, because haven't they picked up a little bit of learning sign language and stuff like that? And I find the younger ones learn so fast. Like at first they were, there was a learning curve. Now they're calling each other on days off and hanging out together, and our friends. The deaf community typically hang out with just deaf members because they're speaking the same language. Yeah. So it's almost like a language. It's a language barrier is what it is. They're speaking a different language. And so when you can transcend those barriers and watch human relationships grow, it's a super special experience. And did WorkBC help in any way in that hiring process? Yeah. That was great for us because it allowed us to provide our specific employee with the opportunity, and then also give that a time and learning curve to just sort of see how is this going to work. And it did help us as well de-risk the financial aspect of that at the beginning. But this employee learned faster than some other employees that were from the non-deaf community. So what was that support that we provided you? You provided us with wage subsidy. The wage subsidy program, yeah. Good example of how we can help them. Right? It was with businesses and the employer and the employees. Yeah, right. It was vital to the success of that story. And Gil, how about for you, and from looking from a diversity hiring perspective? I'm sure you have a similar sort of perspective. Yeah, and that's where, like Chris was saying, we're not just doing a diversity hire to say we have one on the books. Right. We do have a great diversity in our team. I mean, you know that from coming to the Mariner. Yeah. And they're just good people. And that's what we're always looking for. And so I think, with who we have in those roles that are doing that hiring and interviewing and stuff,
their core is just they're good people, so that we're just looking at people as people, and that's the most important part, because that's who we all are, and that's how we're able to stay open and connect with everyone, right? So that's where, like, our tagline is made to explore, and I don't look that just as in beer, but it's in our community, it's in the people of our community, and so that's where we have that environment, and we do the hiring just to have that variety and that the diversity, because that's, life should be explored, and we shouldn't, have barriers and restrictions and things like that. We can all work together and be together. That's life.
Yeah, it's funny how the two actually, brave and the exploring concept kind of go together, because you got to be brave to be an explorer, because you're going into unknown realms. And sometimes you need to take a little bit of a chance. And again, being able to look past diversity barriers and looking truly at the people and going, yes, we can take a chance on this person, because we can see. We don't see the diversity as the barrier. We see the person as the potential, and see that potential and get them in. That's been fantastic. I also just wanted to ask, is, in terms of hiring people right now, are there any specific roles that you're needing filled? Is it hard to find people right now, or are you kind of overwhelmed with job applications? And how do you best want to be approached by people looking for a job?
Well, I mean, it varies with the season. Definitely,
Yes.
we're about to get into a busier season, so that's where,
Yeah.
a lot of extra support staff, whether, on the production side, because it does ramp up for summertime and deliveries and things like that we need, but a big part is definitely the front of house. I mean, for us, our eventual kitchen staff and serving staff as
Right.
well. Definitely, important for the summertime. Now, most people will, there's always people that will come through and hand in resumes, and then that's great. And then if we have a specific, posting out there, but then that's where we also look at, working with WorkBC as well. So we did that with our
Right.
sales, is that we went through with the wage subsidy program, to be able to have someone come through and help with our sales. And as small companies, it's such a great program to have the wage subsidy and that extra support, so that we can be able to take those steps to be able to grow our team, but with the help of the programs. But then it helps those people get the placement as well. It's a great win-win to go through those avenues.
Exactly, it is a great win-win, and we really love it when businesses also take advantages of the supports that we offer, because we often focus on the job seeker, but we also need the employers there to be taking up these opportunities, and it's really good to hear that there's been success stories in this. How about for you, Chris? How are you finding hiring, and is there any specific positions you're finding maybe difficult to hire in, or and can somebody take a resume and drop it off? Is that okay? Because a lot of business nowadays say, "Oh, we don't accept resumes," but can they do that?
Yeah, we have people that bring in resumes, and it helps us put a face and a name to a resume, indeed. And so we'll probably be now saying that inundated with people coming in, but there is that personal touch to it. The summer is picking up. We're always, increasing slightly our number of front of the house staff for the increase in the season and the summer and everything. I would just say beyond that, like specific, I'm going to echo what I said before: flexibility, mindset. Those are things that if people can come in or even on their resume or email it to us and illustrate that, they're probably going to get through the initial screening process faster than someone who just even has a history of working at breweries. So
yeah, like I know for my other business in the chiropractic world, I would have that as a requirement in my job postings, that they drop off the resume. And so if they just email it in, I know they're not reading it, they're not paying attention to detail right off the bat, and I want to see that they want it. I mean, if you can't come to give a resume, that's just a small step of showing initiative. So even if it is just a job posting that you can email the resume in, if you do a follow-up in person, it just shows that initiative, like Chris was talking about before, that you actually care, that you want this. You're willing to go out of your way, take your time to stop in and try to meet someone. You're just going to build, I mean, in person, we live in a very digital world, and nothing will ever replace human connection. And we're in a service connecting industry. So if you show that initiative to make that connection, it speaks volumes.
Yeah, you're connecting industry to community as well.
Yeah.
And so that requires personal
So you got to be able to show your face and shake hands.
Yeah. And it's funny because there's so many people nowadays, oh, no businesses will, accept the resume. That I hear that a lot. It's like, no, you have to understand the businesses that you're going for. And the brewery industry, it sounds like that many of you will. So think about that if you're looking for a job there. And is there anything else that I haven't talked about or asked you about jobs or careers or career opportunities at the craft breweries that you'd like to expand upon or say right now?
Nothing's come to mind that we haven't spoke about.
I think from when we had spoken before, and my experience being fairly new into the industry, one of my biggest surprise was really how, especially on the production side of it, how physical it is. It's a taxing job. Now, I move constantly. I'm just a very physical person myself, so that's where it's actually, I've enjoyed it. I haven't had to go to the gym in a while. Just lift a bunch of heavy kegs and move a bunch of things, and just do it like that. It was great, but you do, that it can be risky at that because it is very physically taxing. But some people, that's what they want. They want that physical moving job rather than just a desk job. But we also have those desk jobs too. So, to me, it's always important for you to understand who you are and what's the mix of tasks and environments that you thrive in and that you really can give something to allow it to grow. That's what you want to find and what you're looking for in the positions. All right.
That sounds good because, I remember that physical aspect. We had talked about that before, that it does, there's just moving kegs and a lot of stuff.
That's a lot. So some people that's awesome for. Some people, they just can't hack it. And that's, it's just what it is. And so that's where making sure that you play to your strengths always.
Well, great. Chris, anything else based on what Gil said? We basically covered, you think?
He echoed my sentiments exactly. So,
perfect.
Not much more.
Well, I hope this has given some good information to people who are listening to this podcast on the type of person, the qualities you're looking for, that and ways that you can connect with the brewery industry. And again, there's such a unique business sector. I don't think there's any other business sector that's so, partly recreational entertainment and yet manufacturing. It really does build community. So if you love community, I think it's a great business to be in. Yeah. I want to also tell our listeners about some news and upcoming events that we've got at WorkBC. So WorkBC Centre Coquitlam is hosting a free virtual workshop on April 23rd called Preparing for Job Interviews. More information, including registration, is available in the show notes below. This is important, again, going in because you want people that interview well and can give examples of how they've taken initiative and how they're business-minded. So we don't want people going into an interview going, I'm business-minded.
Yeah, no canned answers. Actually, like authentic, detailed answers is good because you can see it on the resume. You can see if it's just a canned response that they just send out to everybody.
Exactly.
It's not meaningful. You don't, do you want to connect with the business and with the employer? That's what so being prepared and going through those trainings are good.
And we usually call that examples and accomplishment statements. Like, give an example. What did it accomplish? So you're building the picture in the employer's mind. So
I'll give you a hack, a cheat.
Okay.
What if you're applying for a job at Brave Brewery? One of the questions on the job interview is, by hiring you, I am trusting in you, the reputation and the experience of the business. Why should I trust you?
Okay. So being able to give examples of how you've been in entrusted positions before and what steps you took, that would be really important, especially in the interview, but even in the cover letter, touching on that. And yeah, and filling out the application. That's great. So thank you to Chris, Gil. Thank you, Brave Brewing and Mariner Brewing. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's I hope this summer is going to be a very great summer for the brewery business. I want to also thank our listeners for joining us today, or joining in when you hear this podcast. We are Vancouver WorkBC Centers. WorkBC services are free. There's no cost. You've got to remember that. And are funded by the Government of Canada and the Province of British Columbia. If you've got any feedback or questions for upcoming episodes, email us at workbcpodcast@gmail.com. That's workbcpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you'll never miss an episode, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Alex.
Thanks very much.